All right, so in the last couple of weeks we modeled our building, and when you look at the drawings, the one thing that most of you will notice is in this garage area we have this step footing area. And so the idea behind this is we don't have any basement below this garage, and so why spend the extra money on forming all that formwork and digging down so deep and pouring all that extra concrete if we don't need it, right? So let's step the footings up, and then we don't have to pour as much concrete. We can save materials, we can save effort. And so the building code has some rules associated with that.
Is it not more labor to form that?
Not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily. So a lot of it I'll end up doing with materials. So I'll end up doing with concrete. So it might be a little bit more work to form a step footing, but it's often less materials, so less concrete, less rebar. And so, you know, theoretically it's maybe a little bit more labor, but less money overall. And if this was a bigger building, you definitely could see that cost trickle down. With a small building like this, maybe not, to be honest with you. So the building code talks about how to do a step footing. And so basically the building code states for every 4 feet in length, you can drop a maximum of 2 feet. And so when we look at this, we're extending less than 4 feet and we're dropping less than 2 feet. So we theoretically meet those requirements, and really it's about the angle as well. So if we were to go 2'3" and 2", the building code would not like that. You want it to have that angle, and so since we're dropping only 1 foot, we kind of meet those requirements in some respects. So we're less than 4, we're less than 1. And so let's do that. So let's start modeling this up. And so what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to start 3'9", and I'm going to work this direction and kind of create a bit of a way for us to, I guess, know those numbers. So let's go back to our SketchUp here. And so our first number is 3'9". I'm just going to start on the outer edge of our footing. We're going to go in 3 feet 9 inches. And you'll notice that I'm specifically not editing the group. So I'm going to actually create these lines outside of the group, and it's just going to provide me a reference. So I don't have to like create all these lines within the group and then edit them and remove them. I'm just going to do it outside of the group, and then it's easier to remove later. So 3 feet 9. Next one is 2'3", and we've got 2 of those. We've got 2'3", and then we've got 2'3" again. And so now we're going to go up. And so our first step up is 1'1". We're going to go over this way our 2'3", which it'll connect here. We're going to go up our 1'1", and go over our 2'3", and we'll go up again 1'1", and we'll go all the way to the end here. And so that ends up being our footing. And I'm going to delete this inner face, this inner part here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit our actual footing layer now. Let's edit group. And so I've created those lines to trace, and it just gives me a starting point. That's super easy. And so let's trace these now. And our footings are 6 inches tall, so instead of actually going all the way to the bottom, we're going to go over 6 inches. And we're going to bring that all the way across. We're going to go over our 6 inches. And we have these little steps here. And so those are our footings. And so the one thing you'll notice with the drawing is there's the angle part. So if we just put our concrete like this, there would be nothing that really prevents it from moving because there's not really any stability. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back 6 inches, and I'm going to go up. And the reason why I'm going to do that is I want to create a bit of overlap. So I'm using the footing depth as our overlap number. And so let's do that for all these 3 pieces. And I could probably do this faster as well, but I also just want to kind of explain my thinking. So let's go over 6 inches and then up. And so again, we have our steps now. Our footing kind of follows that. But again, we have nothing to really kind of hold that footing in there. And really what's going to hold that footing is that slope. That slope is going to provide a lot of grip for these footings and prevent them from moving and doing weird things. So our height is 1'1". So if we want to do a 45 degree angle, we're going to go 1'1" this way, 1'1". Find that line and just draw that angle in there. And do the same here, 1'1". Angle, 1'1", and then angle. And so now that we have all of this in here, let's go and get rid of some of these lines. And one thing I'm going to do before I go too far, and I didn't do this in my other class, and I was just kind of thinking about this, this might be a really effective way to copy all this. So I'm just going to grab this like this here, and I'm going to use the move button, and I'm going to move based on this point right here. And I'm going to move, and I'm going to hit the control button to copy. We'll just copy that profile we just created to the other side. And just, again, prevents us from doing it twice. And so now we can do some extrusion. And I'm going to hide my walls here, actually. So let's hide our foundation walls. And so I'm just going to extrude this in to our other side of our footing. And let's extrude this one in to the other side of our footing. I did this a little bit differently in the other class, and I was like thinking about it after. I'm like, that was way too complicated. How can I do that faster? So I think that is a little bit of a faster and better way. And really what we want to do now is let's connect this whole end part here. Like so. So we've got our end. And then let's just measure our footing. So our footing is 1'8". So let's extrude this part in 1'8". 1'8". And then we have a bunch of lines to clean up here. And again, another practice just to improve your efficiency and simplicity with stuff. What we could simply just do here is we could actually select all of this. And I just don't know what lines are not created. And we can just do our intersecting faces function. And there may be 1 or 2 lines that just didn't get created for whatever reason. But by doing that step, it just kind of gives us a little bit of security knowing that we didn't miss a line. So now let's go in and do some cleanup. So erase that, erase that. And we can obviously erase all these bottom lines now. And we actually may have erased too much, but we'll find out in a second. Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of talking about there. So it looks like we erased too much. But let's fix that. So we've got this line. Is that going to go across? Nope. I'm just going to go straight across like this. And like that. And let's erase this now. And then we just got to connect this last part in. And do the same on this side. And it looks like it filled in the middle here, so I'm just going to delete this middle part. And then just erase a few of these last little breadcrumbs left. And I think that's pretty good. So we've got our step footings there. So let's bring our walls back. And the next thing you're going to notice are walls, and we have to change those as well. So let's go in here and let's close our group. And let's edit our wall group. And really this is just a simple tracing exercise. So let's trace these up. And what's going on there? There we go. Nope. trace in the corner there. And on the inside, I'm actually just going to trace, just trace one line, if I can simply. Let me just turn off my roof here. And let's turn off the floors. Turn off the garage floor. So I'm just going to trace this inner one. This inner one might be, just might be a useful one to trace. And the reason why I'm also doing that is just because we have this wall here. When I was doing it in the other class, and this was just me foreshadowing because I knew what it did in the other class, it didn't extrude through nicely, and I had to create a few more lines. So I think by starting with that, it prevents you from doing another step. So now let's extrude this bottom part through, and we can extrude this through probably to the other side as well, maybe? Yeah. And then this part we can, let's extrude this right here. Let's see if we can extrude that through. There we go, and then we should be able to just erase a bunch of stuff now. How does that look from in here? Yeah, so there we go. We've got our walls stepping. I think that looks pretty clean. Oh, we're missing some lines here. That's what I was trying to avoid, but it's okay, we didn't do too badly. There we go. Just that one to fix. And so that's our step footing. So that wasn't too bad. I think I was like 20-something minutes in the other class, so I'm faster now. Yeah, that's step footings. Not super complicated to do, but it is a little bit of work to do the various different steps. I didn't mean to have that pun, so no pun intended. If you're doing this from scratch, it could be theoretically a little bit easier to step this. Maybe it's easier to step after. I would maybe argue probably better just to model it very generically and then do the stepping process after until you know exactly what you want to do. But that's how to step your footings.